Series against the Jazz, Paul George told the OKC media,
"I ain't met playoff P yet."
which is a very lame nickname, and I hope he does not continue to use it, but just looking at the numbers, you can see where he's coming from, because throughout his career, Paul George always turns it up when it comes to the playoffs. This began as early as the 2014 season, when playing the Miami Heat as a 23-year-old, PG showcased the bright future he had ahead of him. In this matchup, George was actually the leading scorer for the entire series, as his 24 points per game actually outperformed both LeBron and Dwayne Wade. George also had a signature dominant performance, as in Game 5 when facing elimination, PG put up a casual 37 points and scored 12 clutch points in the game's final 6.5 minutes. From there, he has continued to raise his play when the games matter the most, as in 2016 he went from averaging 23.1 points in the regular season to 27.3 in the playoffs. And in 2017, his overall game skyrocketed against the Cavs, as he averaged 4.3 more points, 2.2 more rebounds, and 4.4 more assists. So yeah, we have only seen one game this season, but we can already tell that playoff Paul George is ready to go off. As in Game 1 against the Jazz, playoff P, God, I really hate that name, had 36 points, made 8 threes, and finished with 7 rebounds. Now, sure, we can't expect the man to shoot 8 from 11 from 3 every game, but we can expect him to keep filling it up from deep. This year, he did shoot over 40% from 3 and was second in 3-pointers made only to James Harden, which to me shows the potential for PG to go off in the playoffs is right there. That's going to be huge for the Thunder, because let's be honest, this team does have the talent to make a very long run. On any night, Russ can be the best player on the floor, and you know he's going to do everything possible to prove all of the haters that are saying he can't lead a team to a championship wrong. In his career, PG has never had a superstar like Russ to help carry the offensive load. So if the two can work well together this year, this team is going to be dangerous, especially when you consider that George has established himself as one of the NBA's best wing defenders and has the ability to lock up any star player on any given night. Which brings us to Steven Adams, a man who is coming off the best season of his career with 14 points and 9 rebound per game averages. Now, I feel weird saying that Adams is the team's role player X factor here because he is the team's third best player. But really, the Thunder have 2 stars, the rest of their players are role players at this point, and Steven Adams is the most important one. OKC is going to need the toughness that Adams brings down low in order to keep advancing. Just 2 seasons ago, he was huge in the Thunder's almost upset over Golden State. As the Warriors struggle to adjust to the rough style of play Adams brings on a nightly basis. This physical style of basketball throws teams out of their rhythm. Already, we've seen Rudy Gobert get into foul trouble in Game 1 as Adams drew 2 of the 4 fouls directly on Rudy, sending Gobert to the bench during meaningful minutes. Adams' value to this Thunder roster is really one of those styles of play you can't learn everything about in the box score. So if the Thunder are going to continue to advance, I can guarantee that Steven Adams' toughness and ability to make opposing big men uncomfortable is going to be a major reason why. Number 3, Miles Turner and Lance Stevenson. Coming into the playoffs, I said that LeBron and the Cavs were going to be fine. I still think that. I don't overreact to just one game, but I do have to say, I think people were sleeping on the Indiana Pacers. This team is legit and does have the pieces to make a real run this year. They've got a talented starting lineup, a solid bench, a legitimate go-to all-star in Victor Oladipo, and unlike most teams in the NBA, a center who has the potential to dominate on both ends of the court. Miles Turner is the perfect example of the ideal modern-day big man. He uses his height and strength to finish reliably around the basket, as he shot around 60% this year from 5 feet or less. He also is a solid rim protector who finished 3rd in the NBA with 1.8 blocks per game, and perhaps most importantly, he's a big who can stretch the floor. This season, Turner made 1 3 a game while shooting around 36% from deep, but more impressively, he's been a monster from mid-range as he shot around 49% from 15 to 19 feet. This makes him extremely deadly out of pick and pop situations, and this also helps to spread the floor for Oladipo to get to work. This floor spacing and Turner's ability to knock down shots is going to be huge for Indiana, and as for Lance Stevenson, well, we all remember Lance blowing in LeBron's ear. That absolutely has become a golden NBA meme, but it also shows you the mindset that Lance plays basketball with. The man is irrationally confident in the best way possible. He seriously believes he can outplay LeBron. He is 100% confident he can be a top player in this series. Lance has always played his best basketball with the Pacers and has proven that he is capable of coming up big when the lights are shining the brightest. Against LeBron and the Heat in 2013, a 22-year-old Lance willed the Pacers to a Game 4 win with a much-needed 20 points. The next year, he dropped 17 points and 8 assists to shock the Heat in a Game 1 victory. So, sure, Lance might not be the best player in this series, but look out for him, because on any given night, Lance Stephenson absolutely has the potential to turn things up and carry the Pacers to a win. Number 2, Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka. The Raptors finally won a Game 1. Toronto fans everywhere, congrats, the curse is broken. Now though, it's time for the real work to begin. This is a year where anyone in the East can make the finals, and the Raptors absolutely have the talent to get to the game's biggest stage. In order to do that, however, Toronto of course needs their 2 All-Stars to step up their games. Because when it comes down to it, star players are supposed to get better when the playoffs roll around, and DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry kind of have a history of getting worse. Now, DeMar hasn't been that bad, as he did average around 22.5 points per game last year and had 3 games where he scored over 30. Kyle Lowry, however, has been somewhat awful. Last season, Kyle's numbers plummeted from 22.4 points, 7 assists, and 4.8 rebounds per game in the regular season to just 15.8 points, 5.9 assists, and 3.1 rebounds in the playoffs. What's more, he never really had a signature game you would expect from an all-star point guard. The most points he scored was 22, which was below his season average. He also had a shockingly horrible performance in Game 1 of the first round, when he scored only 4 points and shot 2 for 11 from the field. If the Raptors are going to get to the finals, they need Kyle Lowry to step things up. He has to be able to take over a few games in an extended playoff run, because DeMar DeRozan can't handle the offensive load every single game. As for Serge Ibaka, I think his play is going to be one of the biggest factors in this potential playoff run. Last year, Serge was a solid third option for Toronto, and this season he needs to be even more reliable. The tools are there. He's able to stretch the floor, as he made 1.4 threes a game this year on 36% shooting, and his mid-range game is always going to cause problems, as he's made 48.4% of his shots from 15 to 19 feet. As for on the defensive end, we all know that Serge has proven in the past that he's capable of being a dominant defender. This is a player who once averaged 3.7 blocks per game in a season, who is also capable of switching onto smaller offensive players to negate offensive mismatches. Just looking at his numbers, it is clear that Ibaka is not the defensive beast he once was, but the Raptors have built their Eastern Conference contending roster around defense, as they finished 5th this year in defensive rating. If Lowry can raise his game, if Serge can be the solid third guy that the Raptors thought they were getting when they traded for him, then Toronto just might make their first NBA Finals appearance in their franchise's history. And number 1, Al Horford and Terry Rozier. The Boston Celtics have no business making it out of the first round of the playoffs. Sure, they are the number 2 seed in the East, but this team is missing its 2 best players, and while Gordon Hayward has missed the entire season, Kyrie has been Boston's go-to scorer and leader all year and was supposed to be the championship experienced veteran that led his team on a playoff run. Luckily for Boston fans though, they still have Brad Stevens and they still have Al Horford. Throughout his career, Horford has been the definition of the unassuming NBA star. He is a 5-time All-Star, but he's never averaged even 20 points per game, and this year he was an All-Star despite averaging just 12.9 points and 7.4 rebounds. The reason he was an All-Star though is that the man does all of the little things that just help you win basketball games. He's one of the best passing big men in the league, as he averaged 4.7 assists per game this year, the second most out of any NBA center. He also is an absolute stud on defense in a way that is again impossible to tell from the box score alone. Yeah, he averaged just 1.1 blocks and 0.6 steals a night, but it's his defensive IQ, ability to switch, an incredible knack for always being in the right place at the right time that has been a huge key to Boston's defensive success. The Celtics finished second in the entire NBA this year in defensive rating, and Horford was a major part of that success. In order for Boston to survive and advance, this young roster is going to lean heavily on Al's playoff experience and veteran leadership, and I don't think he's going to disappoint. Also, speaking of young players, we all know that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have emerged as future potential all-stars this season, but the real X factor to the Celtics playoff run is going to be Terry Rozier. All throughout his career, Rozier's name has been in trade rumor after trade rumor, but Danny Ainge refused to give him up, and now we're seeing why. When a team loses a legit NBA star like Kyrie Irving, it's basically impossible to fully replace the output he produces. With that said, Rozier has been doing an awesome job at trying. In the 13 games Terry started after Kyrie went down, he averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. What's more, Rozier is a better defender than Kyrie and provides Boston's already great defense with yet another deadly weapon on the court. And the coolest thing to me here is just how much his team believes in him. Brad Stevens has said, Terry's a stud. He's a competitive guy. He's got great ability. And Jaylen Brown has said, I said it, I think, in the preseason. I said, Terry, with the opportunity, could be one of the best point guards in the league. A lot of y'all looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, he's been showing it. Showing it, he has. As in game 1 against the Bucks, we saw just how good Rozier has become. In that game, he finished with 23 points and demonstrated just how confident he is in his abilities. As game 1 on the line, Rozier ISO'd in the clutch, lost Eric Bledsoe with a sick dribble move, then calmly drained what should have been the game-winning 3. Chris Middleton, of course, hit this ridiculous shot, but the point remains. If Terry can keep this up, if Al Horford can keep this team calm when the game is on the line, Boston can still do big things this year, even with key injuries, because the East is wide open.